I was only 13 years old when my parents sat me down in our living room and told me I was no longer their daughter. That I was a disappointment, a failure, a stain on their perfect family name that they needed to erase forever. My grades weren't perfect enough. My dreams of becoming a lawyer instead of joining the family business were unacceptable. And my quiet, introverted personality was apparently a personal insult to their image of what a daughter should be. My father looked me straight in the eyes with cold, empty expression and said, "You're not worthy of carrying this family's name. Pack your things and leave tonight. Don't come back until you've made something of yourself, if you ever do." My mother didn't say a word, didn't cry, didn't hug me goodbye. She just sat there with her arms crossed, nodding along like she had been waiting for this moment for years. I packed a single backpack with a few clothes, my school books, and a picture of my grandmother who had passed away, and I walked out the front door without anyone saying goodbye or asking where I was going. That night, I slept on a park bench with nothing but a thin jacket to keep me warm, staring up at the stars and wondering what I had done wrong to deserve being thrown away like garbage by the people who were supposed to protect me. I was a child, just a child, and they had abandoned me because I wasn't perfect enough. And that wound never fully healed, no matter how much time passed or how successful I became. I lived in shelters. I worked odd jobs washing dishes and cleaning floors. I studied by flashlight in the back of libraries when no one was watching, and I never stopped fighting because somewhere deep inside me, I knew that I would prove them wrong. I would make something of myself, and I would make them regret the day they threw me away like I meant nothing. 15 years passed. 15 long, painful, exhausting years. And I did exactly what I promised myself I would do. I graduated from law school with honors. I passed the bar exam on my first attempt, and I became the youngest female judge ever appointed in our state's history, a position of power and respect that my parents could never have imagined for their worthless daughter. I had built a new life for myself, a life with friends who loved me, colleagues who respected me, and a quiet apartment that felt more like home than my parents' house ever did. I had stopped thinking about them, stopped wondering if they ever regretted what they did, stopped hoping for an apology that was never going to come. But then one afternoon, my phone rang with a number I hadn't seen in 15 years, my mother's number, and I felt my entire body freeze as I stared at the screen like it was a ghost from the past. I answered with a trembling voice, and my mother's cold, familiar voice said, "Your father passed away last week. There's a will reading at the law firm on Friday.
You should come. There's something for you."
She didn't ask how I was, didn't apologize, didn't say she missed me or regretted anything. She just delivered the news like she was reading a grocery list and then hung up without even saying goodbye. I stood in my kitchen for a long time after that call, not crying, not smiling, just feeling this strange, empty numbness because the man who had thrown me out like garbage was dead, and I didn't know whether to feel sad or relieved or nothing at all. I decided to go to the will reading, not because I wanted anything from them, not because I was hoping for an inheritance, but because I wanted to look them in the eyes. My mother and my brother Mark, the golden child who had been everything I wasn't, and show them exactly what their failure had become. I walked into that law firm wearing my judge's robe because I wanted them to see it, wanted them to understand that I wasn't the weak, broken girl they had thrown away 15 years ago. My brother Mark laughed when he saw me, laughed and pointed and said, "Look who finally showed up, the failure of the family. What are you wearing? Is that a costume? Did you rent that to impress us?" My mother just stared at me with cold eyes. No recognition, no regret, nothing but that familiar disgust I had grown up with. The lawyer began reading the will, and everything my brother Mark expected to receive was laid out in black and white. The house, the money, the jewelry, the investments, everything was supposed to go to him because he was the good child, the one who had stayed, the one who had been everything our parents wanted. My brother was already smirking, already mentally spending his inheritance, when the lawyer paused and said, "And to my daughter, I leave the following, a letter, and my full confession to the court of law." My brother's smile vanished instantly, replaced by shock and confusion, and he screamed, "What?" She got something? How dare he? She was disowned.
She's not even part of this family.
The lawyer ignored him completely and began reading my father's letter out loud in a calm, steady voice that echoed through the silent room.
To my daughter, I am so sorry.
I was a terrible father, and I have regretted what I did every single day for the past 15 years.
I disowned you not because you were a failure,
but because I was afraid. Afraid that you would outshine me. Afraid that you would become everything I could never be. Afraid that your success would expose my own inadequacies.
I watched you from a distance all these years.
I saw your graduation. I saw your appointment to the bench, and I have never been prouder of anyone in my entire life. I don't expect your forgiveness, but I want you to know that I see you now, and I always saw you. My mother started crying. My brother started screaming threats and insults, but I didn't react. I just sat there calmly because I had waited 15 years for this moment, and I wasn't going to let anyone ruin it. The lawyer continued reading the will, explaining that my father had transferred all his assets to a shell company before he died, a company that was currently under investigation for fraud and money laundering, and that those assets were now being seized by the federal government. My brother would get absolutely nothing because everything was frozen and being investigated by the very court system I worked for. I slowly stood up from my chair, adjusted my judge's robe, and looked directly at my brother Mark with cold, calm eyes that made him step backward in fear. I said, "You called me a failure, Mark. You laughed at me, humiliated me, and treated me like garbage for 15 years. But here's what you didn't know. I've been working with the federal investigation team for the past 6 months, and I already knew everything about that shell company. Your inheritance is gone, and there's nothing you can do about it because I made sure of it." My brother lunged at me, screaming and crying, but security grabbed him and held him back as I walked toward the door. My mother chased after me, sobbing and begging, "Please, Sarah, please forgive us. Please don't leave us like this. We're your family. We're your blood." I stopped, turned around slowly, and said,
You were never my family.
"Family doesn't throw a 13-year-old child out on the street. Family doesn't ignore their daughter for 15 years and then act like they care because there's an inheritance involved."
You lost the right
To call me family the night you told
me to pack my things and
leave. I walked out of that law firm and never looked back, not once, because I had already given them 15 years of my life, and that was more than they ever deserved. My brother lost everything. The house, the money, his reputation, and eventually, his wife left him because she couldn't stand the person he had become. My mother lives alone in a small apartment now, sending me letters that I never open, leaving voicemails that I never listen to, because some wounds never fully heal and some betrayals are too deep to forgive. Today, I sit on the bench as a respected judge.
I have a beautiful family of my own.
And I know that I made it on my own, without their help, without their money, without their love, and that makes my success infinitely sweeter than any inheritance could ever be. I learned that day that the best revenge against people who disowned you is to become so successful that they can never ignore you again, and then to walk away with your head held high because you don't need their approval, their money, or their love to be happy. All you need is yourself and the strength to keep going when everyone else tells you you're not enough. The best revenge against people who disowned you is to become so successful
That they can never ignore you again.
and then walk away forever because you don't need their approval, their money, or their love.
Sometimes the greatest victory is proving
That you can succeed without the people who were supposed to support you. And the sweetest payback is watching them realize what they lost